Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for a kind of a late addition to the Talk Track series. I'm Brian Matheny from uStudio's product group. Joined with myself is Josh Marshall from our engineering team. And we are excited to talk to you today about streaming video anywhere inside Salesforce with a video platform. So on our agenda today, we're going to cover a wide variety of topics. First, we're going to walk through the video challenges and why video is more than just a file, and really get into some details about why it requires a video platform when you're sharing that content. Walk through some video use cases. So why put video in Salesforce to begin with? And when you decide to, where are you going to put it? Where are you going to leverage that video content? Josh is going to walk through some code examples today utilizing an SDK as well as some Salesforce Lightning tools. And then we'll talk about going interactive with your content. So once you get it into Salesforce, you're streaming that content, how do you go beyond the passive play button? Finally, it all wraps up with measuring value. Who watched? When did they watch? Where did they watch? How long did they engage? And how do you get those metrics over to the right audience to consume that data? So Josh?
Yep. So I'll kick off by talking about video challenges. So what makes video difficult in general? It's not just video inside of Salesforce that's difficult. It's video itself that is difficult. And it's because it's more than just another file type. So we're all familiar with JPEGs and images and PNGs and PDFs and all the different things that we attach to a variety of different records and things inside of Salesforce and share today. And they generally function pretty easily. You share a file, and that same file you uploaded is the file that you turn around and distribute. Video is not like that at all. So you've got a variety of different challenges up on the screen right now. I'm going to call out a couple of them, specifically the ones that introduce challenges in Salesforce. So you've got things like large original assets. Videos are easily hundreds of megs, if not gigs, and that obviously doesn't work easily inside of the Salesforce model. But not only are these large original assets do they need to be stored and managed, but they also need to be transformed or transcoded. So the file type that you get in from mobile phones or from editing equipment or any of those things, it's not the same asset that you turn around and distribute across a network to a bunch of different devices, across varying browsers and network limitations. So it's large original assets that need lots of processing, that need customized and specialized delivery on CDNs and video-enabled CDNs. You have to have a custom player experience, right? It's not just downloading a PDF and letting your system viewer open the PDF. It's providing a player that streams the content, and then it's providing the interactivity on top of that so that you're getting all of the benefits out of the video, the medium itself, and allowing your users to trigger actions on top of it. And then it's the security and SSO requirements around that. So because of the nature of streaming video and because of the nature of the player itself, you have to provide security all the way throughout to your CDN and other things, and that just requires additional concerns. And then finally, widely varying metadata. You're using video, or you're trying to use video today across a number of different use cases, and all of them require different metadata constructs, right? Inside of a customer support use case versus a sales enablement workflow versus a marketing example, they all require different metadata, and that may be coming from end users, it may be coming from your team. So you have to be thinking about all of those different things when you're putting video inside of the different applications you care about. Specifically inside of Salesforce is what we're talking about today. So when we look at the video problem, we look at it as more than just an uploading and sharing files. We look at it as a life cycle. Because of the communicative nature of video, because it's such a powerful communication medium, you really need to be thinking about video, how it moves through all of the steps in your organization, starting with acquisition. How are you getting those video files? Are they coming from your video production team? Are they coming from end users with user-generated content? Are those end users authorized to access other aspects of your platform and other distribution mechanisms in the video campaign and workflow? So how do you validate that those videos are the right ones to be distributed? All of those things are in the acquisition phase. Then you have the management phase. So how are you storing these videos and annotating these videos in such a way that you can organize them, search for them, place them in the right places? In Salesforce, it might be predictively even placing them in the right opportunities for sales folk or customer support folk to take advantage of those assets. Distribution. So this is a key one. Like I said before, you've got to customize the delivery of that asset, but video may need to go into a variety of different places. You've got the obvious ones like YouTube and external player platforms, but you've also got environments like Salesforce or internal CDNs inside of your network. You've got WAN optimization concerns to make sure that you're not taxing that network. So there's a lot of different distribution requirements you have to think through. I mentioned a little bit before about interactivity, but you need to be thinking about video as more than just a black box of content that's viewed by your end user and then that's done. What do you want them to do with that content? How are you enabling them to do that effectively? And then finally, how are you tracking that? You need to be tracking it to the analytics and metrics that matter to your company today. It can't just stop with how many people watched it, how far did they watch it. You need to be tracking named users inside of the metrics that matter to your organization. So a support use case might require metrics around closing tickets, right? And that the video viewing information there is very different than, say, a marketing use case where you want lots and lots of plays. A video that has lots and lots of plays in a customer support workflow is probably not great. You don't want a lot of people watching the same video because they're having trouble. You want to track and see how effective that video is at closing tickets. And that's just a couple of different examples when you're thinking about measurement. So as it's a life cycle, once you're measuring that content, you're finally coming around and deciding how do I produce content effectively with my next video, my next campaign. That's what makes it a life cycle. So even with a robust platform, with all these requirements that we're talking about, Salesforce and video are not immediately friendly. Because I said video files can be large, you're not going to be attaching those files or storing those inside of Salesforce if you want to be growing a large video library of hundreds or thousands of assets. And then as video continues to grow, 4K, VR, 360-degree videos, those are all larger and larger assets. For proper playback, like I mentioned before, it has to be streamed, not just downloaded. So that needs to be an external CDN or source. Delivery via modern methods means even more so that those CDNs must be video aware. In some cases, you might need extra packaging for HLS, Dash, et cetera. So there's a variety of other concerns in here, but essentially, it's a challenge to put video into Salesforce natively, even with all the power that Salesforce provides. However, the Salesforce platform is so flexible that you're able to take an external video platform and easily embed video into all aspects of the Salesforce workflows that you're building today. And that's why we say you're going to want a video platform. You could go it yourself and try to build a video platform yourself, but you're going to spend a long time trying to make that work effectively for your organization. So as you're evaluating a variety of different video platforms, here's a couple of the rules that we feel you should view. Now, obviously, we're a little biased as a video platform, but we think that these are pretty good rules that we've seen over many years working with customers across a variety of different use cases to make sure that when you're settling on a platform that powers these video use cases across your organization, that you have the right tools today and the right flexibility for tomorrow. So native integration into Salesforce, you need to be able to take advantage of the custom records and objects that you have today. You need to be able to put this video into all of these videos into all of the different application experiences that you've already built and the ones that you're designing. You need to have a platform that takes care of all of the things I was just describing before, the transcoding, the delivery, the constant evolution of video technology. In just the last 10 years, we've seen video move from SD delivery on the web all the way out to now, like I said, 360-degree video. And that's a pretty vast change in how videos are packaged and managed and inspected and shipped out. So a platform needs to be able to handle that. And then I've got the delivery methods there too. From Flash being the dominant video player now to HTML5 and out to adaptive and live and newer streaming methods, you need to be able to rely on your video platform to take care of that and to be looking ahead and make sure that you have the right tools you need to continue to stream video effectively. You may only need one solution today. You might be looking at enabling a marketing workflow or maybe a sales enablement workflow or internal training. But in reality, those video assets, to be effectively taken advantage of, you need to be thinking about how can I move that tomorrow across the organization. So picking a single product today that maybe it's a great marketing player or maybe it's a sales enablement tool is maybe not as effective as thinking, how can I take a platform and embed it into all of these different workflows? Custom metadata, I mentioned it a little bit before, but your video assets are as varied as the communication or the message that you're trying to communicate. So you need to be thinking about how you're attaching all of that custom metadata to the video records, to the assets, and how that flows into Salesforce and how it flows into your campaigns and your workflows. So video needs to have extensible metadata, and you might need to be attaching files, you might need to be searching across different fields, you might have different IDs and records. All of that needs to be supported by your video platform. You might need your own storage and CDN solutions later. Maybe you already have existing CDN relationships, or your IT team has opinions on where video files should be stored or how they should be streamed. Your platform needs to be able to support the things that you have today and the things that you're going to be looking for tomorrow. And then finally, you need to be able to report any metric from your player into your different application workflows. And again, tracking that to the metrics that matter to you and to your business, not just the standard, here's the 5 or 6 metrics that a video player product might give you out of the box. You need to be able to extend that. So you don't just want feature automation via the API and the hooks that are provided by your video player solution. You want APIs that are platform capabilities that are composable. So that's a quick run through of video challenges and challenges in Facebook. And now Brian's going to walk through some of the use cases we see from our customers.
Yeah, so when you think about video and the power that you can kind of wield with it and get out information to your customers, both internally and externally, how do you do that? And why would you want to do that in a system that may be a little complex to work with? And really, when you look at some of these examples, things that excite our customers include user-generated video workflows. So being able to put something onto a mobile device, collect video from customers in the field, from field service agents, we call it eliminating truck rolls. And so instead of sending a service truck out on site to capture what's happening to a physical machine or something of the sort, taking that video and bringing it into a service record within Salesforce and being able to follow that through the service process, seeing firsthand what those issues look like, associating it to cases, and then turning that into things like knowledge articles. When you think about working with video socially in Salesforce, looking at video in Chatter, so socially sharing video to your followers, to your business groups, even out externally to your customers, sharing, commenting, and engaging on that content, and then tracking playback and statistics within Salesforce. So one of the things we think is important is as you're collecting all of these metrics, you shouldn't have to be reporting to them in systems that business users are going to have to learn and they're going to have to become accustomed to. All this data can go right into the system that everyone is accustomed to use and create custom reports and dashboards in. When you look at extending it even further into communities, sharing externally to your customer base, and if you have customer portals set up utilizing communities, creating these portals and then securely managing that content. Everyone says, it's really easy to throw content out on YouTube. That's what we're doing today. And that definitely is an option. But if you want to control and gate that content and make sure that you're tracking not just who has access to it, but who's leveraging that content and who's watching that content and rewatching that content and sharing that content, you really want to have it in a controlled atmosphere. And you're doing that with your information already today in Salesforce. You can do the same thing with video. Finally, extending it into things like knowledge articles. Knowledge articles are a great resource when you're helping to train your external customers or even your internal support teams. And right now, when they're text heavy, those are things that especially the younger generation shies away from. No one's going to sit down and read 3 to 4 pages of a how-to document in a knowledge base article, but you give them, or myself, a 3 to 5 minute video that you can watch and you can engage in and you can really interact with that content. You're going to find that the adoption of finding that information is so much more than just reading text in a text-based knowledge article. At the same time, if you have a knowledge article that's all text, how do you gauge how much they actually read? So you have 2 to 3 pages of a knowledge article. I can't tell you if someone read all 3 pages. I can tell you if they clicked on it. I can tell you how many times they came back to it, but I can't tell you that engagement. And with video, you can track that engagement. You can see that they watched all 5 minutes of that content. You can see where they paused. You can even, and we'll talk about in a few minutes, add interactivity, add some white papers, add job aids that they can download and they can interact with. So jumping over to some of these examples, these are a few examples utilizing our video platform. In this instance, we're sharing video through Chatter. So Chatter, an easy way to communicate with your colleagues, even with your customers. We look forward to engaging with you after this session in our Chatter feed as well. But giving you the ability to upload video content and to share that to your users. Again, as Josh mentioned, the key here is that we're able to stream this content and we're able to do so without burdening the Salesforce system, without reaching data limits or anything like that. So just a very simple video here, streaming off of a CDN provider. At the same time, it's secure. So if I were to try to share this video outside of the Salesforce org, I wouldn't be able to do that. So one of the options you have when you start looking at sharing video within Salesforce, associating to any record. So you're working with your sales team and you want to share information to your prospects, to your contacts. You want to engage in those opportunities. The ability to associate videos to these contacts and opportunities, to be able to share directly from a contact record, walk through the process that your sales team is already familiar with, send this video record, and then track the entire engagement process. Track the fact that they opened that communication. Track the fact that they watched the video, that they finished watching the video, they watched it multiple times, and then associate that back to the opportunity. That's when you can really start to do what we'll talk about later, which is measuring the return on your investment in video. You're spending money to create video content. It's important to follow that all the way through and understand, where is it impacting the bottom line? What videos are working for you and what videos are actually engaging folks in the sales process or even in the support process? So looking at communities, building out very simple community portals that allow you to engage video content to your subscribers, to your internal customers, to your external customers. Again, not worrying about the file size, the content, streaming to any device, whether it's mobile, desktop, tablet, and then letting your consumers of video engage in that. So again, chatter feeds down here at the bottom, socially share that content, engage the rest of your team as you're working through this. And then finally, as I mentioned, bringing it into knowledge cases. Knowledge is a great asset within Salesforce. As you have more knowledge articles, you're adding that text-based content. What if you were able to have a package that allowed you to read the topic of your case, read the topic of the case you're working on, and actually recommend knowledge articles here? So based on intermittent access issues, that metadata that we have from the case, we're prompting the case agent here with the appropriate knowledge article. So I have intermittent issues in this particular knowledge article that has video. So great, here's a question. Here's 2 simple lines of text that preview what that video is, and then the ability for that user to come in and watch that content. So you can watch a very quick training video. With this, again, you can associate how long someone engaged with the content, how often is that content being watched, how useful is that? So if you're seeing videos watched over and over again, as Josh mentioned with customer support articles and customer support knowledge-based articles, maybe that video is not working for you in the way that you think it is. So tying back those metrics, tying it all back to objects that you're already familiar with within Salesforce. So with that, kind of taking it a step further with some code examples, utilizing our SDK with some Lightning.
Yeah, so I'm going to walk through real quickly a few examples of using our SDK inside of Lightning. And first, I'm going to sort of talk through the approach that we're going through here. So our goal is to show at least a couple of those phases of the video life cycle. I'm going to be focusing on acquisition, management, and distribution. And it's going to be through a few little small Lightning components that speak to each other. And then after that, Brian will walk through a few examples of interaction inside of the player and the measurement of those video metrics that we talked about before. So again, this is our biased approach. When you're looking at integrating video platforms into your workflow, you might be making different decisions. But this is when we approach building our platform and then building the integrations into Salesforce that our customers use. This is a model that we found pretty useful, and it allows composability and flexibility all the way down throughout the stack. So at the bottom, you see services. These are shared video services that are required for pretty much any video moving through the video lifecycle, and there's a whole lot more, right? There's authorization, and there's authentication, there's notification, and a variety of different services that are necessary. But we're going to focus today on where's the video being stored, how is it being transcoded, and how is it being delivered. On top of that, we expose simple resources, and today we're talking through video destinations and studios. These are uStudio constructs. Well, studios are a uStudio construct. And then destinations are a mechanism for publishing and distributing content and measuring it without you as an end user having to worry about all of the transcoding and delivery requirements and other things. It's a very simple mechanism. And video players fall under that for us. And then videos themselves, we'll talk about the separation between metadata and the assets and how that still is separated out from the publishing workflow and organization workflow so that you're able to make your own unique application workflows. On top of that, we have video APIs. We're an API-first company, so we feel APIs are fundamental, and you should be looking for a video platform that is API-first so that you know that every capability in the system was thought through in such a way that allows you to customize what you want to do with it, to build your own features and not have to wait on that provider of that platform or product to release features to you, give you checkboxes. You can build your own features with a real platform. On top of that, those APIs, we build out our Salesforce SDK, which is Apex-based and has a variety of different components and dashboards and other things built into it. And today, we'll show you some of the Lightning components built on top of that SDK. We build our own apps on top of these same mechanisms, and you can build Heroku apps on top of the APIs and connect it with Salesforce as well. Again, we're focusing today on just a very simple Lightning component example, but this is our approach to how we build out our integrations and frameworks and SDKs. So today, what I'm focusing on is a smaller version of that. At the bottom, I'm going to walk through a simple Apex class that's Aura-enabled that allows these Lightning components to speak back to the SDK. And you'll see in most of these examples, it's a few lines of code to make that work. On top of that, we have, I think there's 5 or 6 different components actually inside this project, but I'm going to focus on 3. Excuse me. One is the uStudio Video Uploader. That's getting video into an external platform. The uStudio Video Gallery, which is showing a list of videos that come from our API. And then uStudio Video Playback, which is wrapping iframes and other things to show a player inside of an application. And then finally, the thing that ties it all together is just a Lightning app that shows all 3 components speaking to each other. So before I dive into that, I'm going to show you a quick example of it. So here's 3 very vanilla Lightning components. And here's the video uploader, here's the video gallery, and here's video playback. So first off, excuse me, you'll see I'm going to upload a new video and put in a description. The important thing here is not that there's 2 metadata fields or that there's a title and description. It's that these metadata fields can be anything you want them to be, as we described earlier. So if I wanted to be attaching files, or I wanted to be selecting values from a dropdown, or I wanted to be checking off approval checkboxes, or you want to be entering product SKUs, or any number of things that need to automatically come from your end users when they're providing video, you would provide this in this component. So I'm saving it. Now, the reason I'm calling out a separate step there is I'm saving the metadata inside of the API, which is separate than attaching an asset to it. In a lot of workflows, you won't see that. In fact, in the workflows that Brian was showing before, it's uploading the file and creating the metadata. That all looks like one step to the end user, because a lot of users don't necessarily need that in their workflows. I'm calling it out here, though, because the separation of metadata from the asset is an important way of keeping the records and the processes that those records go through separate from the different iterations of the video file itself. So I'm going to provide a simple file here, just an interview clip that I have, and I'm going to go ahead and upload. In this example, we're not showing progress, but the Lightning component here has triggered an event. I'll show you that in a moment. But it is uploading the asset into our infrastructure. You can see success, and you can see it's already available down here. So in that time, we extracted a thumbnail from the asset. We extracted some other metadata, and we provided this video. And actually, once it finished inspecting, we immediately published it to a destination under the covers. So you didn't have to worry about destinations and players and all those things. So when I click it here, it's actually loading a signed embed code over here. And that assigned embed code, which I'll show you in a minute, is an OAuth-style signature, which allows you to be SSO agnostic. So you don't have to wait for us to come and say, oh, now we support Salesforce SSO, or oh, now we support this other SSO mechanism. You can generate signed embed codes and also determine your own requirements for the authentication around that asset. So if you have your own permission sets, or you have your own views, or you have your own custom community requirements for which users can view which assets, by combining the metadata and filtering across a video library, and then signing the embed codes when somebody is properly authorized and viewing in the right environment, you can make sure that that user is able to see the content that they're allowed to. And then I could share it on Chatter, but for purposes today, I'm going to move pretty quickly through this example. So jumping to the code itself, because we were told that in these sessions people want to see lots of code, so we're going to show it. We have a simple Lightning service here. And you can see that to get studios, which is one of the resources that we use to manage video libraries, it's the primary sort of hub of where video libraries are organized. You can see it's 2 lines of code with our API. You get an API, and then you retrieve studios, and then you return that from the list. And this is available now to Lightning components and other things. Creating a video is as simple as providing in the metadata. In this case, we're only doing title, description, and we're providing a category, but this could be any set of metadata you care about to our backend system, and then you're filtering it. And in this case, we're being kind of lazy and grabbing the first studio, but the SDK, when you install it, you attach application credentials to it, and any studio, any set of videos, any destinations that that application credential has access to, you could be working with here and uploading and managing and distributing inside of those environments. So. Then we are getting a list of destinations. This is focused on secure destinations today, or that single secure player destination. And then we are getting videos and we're wrapping it with some a custom class that's in this. But it's still pretty simple, as you can see. Get a studio, get the first studio, get the first destination, which in this case is a secure video destination. And then we're going to get uStudio videos, wrap over it, and most of this code is just setting a few values. The key one that I'll call out here is setting the signed embed URL. So if I did not set the signed embed URL and I tried to put this video player in front of an end user, it would fail. It would 404 because it doesn't have the right tokens. And simultaneously, if you went throughout the request to get the transcodes delivered from the CDN or any of those pieces, it would 404 without the right tokenization. So make sure that you have an SSO agnostic layer from your player provider so that you can extend that all the way up to the CDN, and you can't share CDN URLs, which are the video files themselves, for somebody to download and then re-upload somewhere else. You just need to make sure that security moves all the way through the platform. And then down here, there's a couple of helpers. There's a publish video, which just puts the video on the destination. So you can see from us, you don't need to worry about transcodes. You don't need to worry about a variety of different things. It's a single function call to put a video into a destination, in this case, a secure player. Sharing chatter, everybody's probably pretty familiar with, but that's a simple helper function. The final one I'm going to show you here, this is actually available in our SDK, but when you're thinking about these things, this is a OAuth style signature. You can see it's a little bit more involved to generate one of these. But just so you get a sense of the type of security you need to be putting around your assets, an OAuth style signature is somewhat familiar, but it allows you to, without having to make an extra API call or talk to an external system, if you have a secret, which in this case is very well named secret. So you can see up here, I encourage you not to hard code your consumer secrets and call them secret inside of your application. But for today's example, this works. So this is configurable via the platform. And once it's generated the signature without making any external calls, you now have a signed embed code that you can put in front of any user. This is expiring, I believe, within an hour, but you can change expiration values and other things. So that's a quick overview of the main driver of all of those components you saw. So now we're inside of the actual component HTML code, and you can see this is pretty standard boilerplate for a Lightning component. If you've been building them before, or you're attending any events today, you probably are going to be able to build these things better than we are. But you can see that the video uploader shows a couple of form fields and then a save button, and that triggers the save action, which is what calls that create video method in the class I showed you before. And then the important thing down here is that like I said before, it separates it out. This is a file form. And once we have posted a video to uStudio, we return a signed upload URL. Same thing as the signed embed URL. And this is something that you make sure you evaluate when you're picking a video platform, is that it returns to you secure URLs that are able to be used by end users without having to have access to your platform. So they can upload the video directly to separate infrastructure. It's not passing through Salesforce, and you're not having to scale up your infrastructure just to put a security layer in front of your video platform. Instead, it's uploading directly to that end platform without exposing any of the credentials that matter to you. So that's what that form is, and you can see actually in, I believe it's this file, that we will extract the file upload, and we will change it to the signed URL that's coming back from the video creation process, and then they can click upload, and it'll immediately post to it. And that's pretty much essentially all that's in that component. It's a very simple component. Here's another simple component, which is the video gallery. So you can see here that all we do is we iterate across the videos that are retrieved from Get uStudio videos. And then I'm going to sort of move past pretty quickly this point, but let's see if there's anything else in these files. Yeah, it's very simple. All we're doing is grabbing the individual records, posting them. You know, if you're familiar with Lightning callback structure, it's pretty much basic. But we're putting those video components inside of a list. So for today, I'm not going to walk into the video component itself because it's just putting a thumbnail and a title and other things, but it's very simple. Finally, I'm going to show the actual playback component. And again, this is also very, very simple. In fact, the only thing that really matters here is that there's an iframe here. So the way our platform is organized, and many player providers, they put everything inside of an iframe. That keeps everything constrained to that iframe, that window. So all of the customization that you put inside of that player, whether you're changing, and Brian will show you some examples of that in a moment, but whether you're changing the theme, the look and feel, you're adding custom analytics code, or you have annotations on top of the player, or any number of customizations and look for a player platform that gives you extensive customization options, you're able to keep it inside of that iframe. This iframe can also communicate to the outer page via post message. One of the benefits of our platform is that every event that passes through the player is exposed to the outer page, but you'll find that sort of mechanism from a lot of different players. So when you have that, you can actually trigger actions on the outer page based on the time of the video or based on your own actions inside of it. If somebody clicks this ticket or this video, close my support ticket, you can actually trigger that all the way out to the Visualforce page that's containing it. And I think that's pretty much it for the Lightning component workflow. And obviously, I've moved through that pretty quickly. If you have any questions on this particular examples, we can share these code examples later. You can drop them inside of your own orgs if you want to talk with us and figure out how to do that. But that sums up the code section.
I think, Josh, we had a question down here in the front.
Oh, yeah.
You just mentioned about the iframe posting messages to the parent.
Yeah.
Does that play well with Locker Service?
With which service?
Locker Service?
Well, technically, it plays well with anything you can call from Apex code, because if you've got a Visualforce page and you're calling out to the outer page, then you can call the JavaScript on that page and therefore then call back into any backend system.
No, right. The Locker Service is the whole security layer
Mm-hmm.
that Salesforce is about to force on everyone. Spring release of it.
Yeah. I don't think we've seen any issues with it yet. So
So you tested it with Locker Service?
I have not specifically tested it in Locker Service, but we have folks that use this in a variety of different Salesforce organizations, and I don't think we've had anybody have any issues with it yet. So I can follow up on that, though. So that's the code example. And then Brian's going to walk through interactivity.
Yeah, so when you take your videos and you're pushing them into Salesforce and you're pushing them into different platforms, you want to make sure that you have engaging content that keeps your viewers active and coming back for more of your content and really utilizing the videos you put out there. So we always say it's important to make sure that your content goes beyond just the play button. So before we dive into it, just a couple of examples. It's really easy to change the look and the feel of a player, but being able to add interactivity, being able to add custom e-commerce inside of a player, or be able to add workflow, like Josh was mentioning, when you close out a support desk ticket and you're able to do that from a video and close that complete workflow. It just makes the whole experience that much easier for your end user. So looking at a couple of these examples, when you talk about the metadata that you can associate to these videos, you really have the opportunity to add anything, not just text-based metadata, not just notes and descriptions. In this instance, we've actually added some flyers, some handouts, and some downloadable content that associates with this video. So when you publish it, you've associated, in this case, we have 4 different white papers for this particular video. You can download that content. It all travels with a single embed code, and you get to really augment the experience that the end user has. The importance with this, though, is making sure you tie back the analytics. So it's great that you have this content you've associated to a video, but you want to make sure that you can capture not just how long did someone watch a video, did they watch it multiple times, but did they engage with the content? Did they download video share for training or video share for chatter? Or did they not download any of the content? Did they peruse the content and choose not to download it? So when you tie this back to named users in Salesforce, it gives you so much more context to what your consumers and your video watchers are doing within the system. If you're going social with chatter, here's a quick example of going and putting overlays of other social channels. So you can imagine a chatter feed on top of this. This is a quick example of a Twitter feed. So the ability to add social interactions within the player, push these into the Salesforce environment, or even, as I said, give that ability for adding interactive e-commerce. So here's an example of purchasing tour tickets for an artist. If you're purchasing tickets to speaking engagements or any type of corporate events, you can add this directly within the player, and it really helps folks not have to leave that experience, not leave where you have them consuming that content as they're walking through it. And being able to do so in an easy manner. So taking a look at what we have here with our uStudio Playground and the ability to the ability to add any type of customization to the look and feel, which is always important, but really bring in additional add-ons. So if you want to look at bringing on integration into products like Pardot or Marketing Cloud, even going into other systems like HubSpot or email gateways that really allow you to gate content, collect additional information from your viewers. It's an easy way to extend that content, make it more interactive, and then push that into Salesforce. If you really think outside of the box, this is an example where you're training with video. You're able to have an annotative player. So if you're watching one of these, what's wrong with this scene video, you can put your comments in here and have that information flow all the way into Salesforce. So you really get into the concept of gamification in this instance. And all of this information, again, is stored within the Salesforce system. So all of that metadata associated to the viewer, associated to the video, all stored here so you can easily collect on it, report on it, and create your custom dashboards. In the end, if you're not measuring your value and delivering that to the right people, you're not able to prove the ROI of video within your organization. So having all of that data, all the way down to the named user within the system, to the objects within Salesforce, if you're associating it to opportunities, to contacts, even down into training users and community portal viewers, you want to make sure that you're reporting on these analytics and you're giving the folks within the Salesforce org the ability to get to that data themselves, not making them learn a brand new system to collect that information on. And as Josh mentioned, there's lots of ways that you can collect the information, whether you're doing it directly from the player, reporting directly on those experiences with your standard engagement statistics and experience with custom modules. If you're doing it from the visual force or the lightning page, so that outer page and what's happening as the user engages with that page. If you're utilizing a statistics API, like the one that we have within our platform that gives you standard statistics around views and engagement with the video, or even going all the way into the Salesforce reporting with the custom objects, as I mentioned, linking it back into things like the chatter users, the opportunities, the sales cases, the knowledge articles, the service cloud cases, and getting all of the data as it travels through the viewer experience, not just the video itself, but how did that really impact the viewer within the Salesforce org. Those are the key metrics you want to make sure you're collecting as you push video anywhere within Salesforce.
Yeah, so to wrap up, just covering a few of the things that we talked about today. First, you want to pick a flexible video platform. You want it to be able to take advantage of all the things that you're trying to do today easily, and you want to be able to take those capabilities and build out your own features and applications tomorrow. You need to make sure that you understand the video use cases that matter across your entire organization. Not necessarily whatever is the most immediate fire from, say, marketing or from sales, but making sure that you understand how that applies across the organization so that you get the most benefit from a single video platform. You want those platform capabilities broken down in such a way that, again, across the video lifecycle, you can pick which tools matter to you today and how you can make that video move effectively through those workflows. A player should be capable of any video experience you want to create. So you need to be able to extend easily with tools that you understand today, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. If you're using an HTML5 player, we're not talking about native necessarily today, although that's something else that you might need to be talking about inside of your organization is how are you powering native applications. But specifically with HTML5-based video players, you need to be able to extend the entire thing. And it can't just be, okay, I can drop an annotation here, or I can maybe change a color here. It's got to be much broader than that. You need to be able to support your own analytics solutions. You need to be able to support the network requirements and integrations that your IT teams, the things that they worry about on a daily basis. You need to be able to apply these things to live broadcasts and other things. You just need to be able to build whatever player experience your video demands and your organization's use cases demand. Finally, measure that video in a way that meets your organization's requirement. It's got to be a lot more than just the basic video analytics. It's got to be matching the things that matter to your company. What's driving revenue, what's driving support case closes, all of those different things that Brian said. Make sure you're measuring the right things beyond just video plays. Again, the most important thing for having a video platform is that it gives you the flexibility to experiment, to discover new ways of using video effectively. If video is the most effective communication medium, you need to be putting it everywhere. And you need to not be worried about the mechanics and the technical challenges of moving video through different applications, but instead, you need to be thinking about what can I do better, more tomorrow than I'm doing today with video. So that wraps it up. Thank you. Oh.
On the video, can you make that required before they move forward? Or
Sure. What you're seeing there is just a simple JavaScript example, but you can put whatever workflow you want. So that's actually can then be triggered to the outer page via some of the mechanisms that we were talking about before, and you can block it at that point. You can prevent the user from being able to move through any workflow you want to. Any other questions?
We are in the developer forest. We're in the back by the theater. We're booth 13. Please take a minute, stop by if you'd like to talk more. We have more examples we can walk you through, more examples of how customers are integrating within Salesforce today, and would love to chat more about using video anywhere within Salesforce. Thank you guys for coming out this afternoon. We appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you.